Thanks very much. Let's bring you some breaking news now. The Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon giving her reaction to the reports in the Daily Telegraph which suggested she'd prefer David Cameron as Prime Minister to Ed Miliband. Well, our correspondent James Cook is in Glasgow where there's a rally taking place, James, and we've got a chance to hear what Nicola Sturgeon makes in her own words of this story, one she's already denied.
Yes, thanks very much indeed. Yeah, just to explain where we are, this is a rally campaigning against the renewal of the Trident nuclear weapons system and indeed the existence of the Trident nuclear weapons system. But of course, much of the front pages today, notably the Daily Telegraph, dominated by this story that you mentioned referring to Nicola Sturgeon. So let's just speak to the Scottish National Party leader and First Minister of Scotland now. Good morning, good afternoon. In fact, did you at any stage say that you would prefer David Cameron as Prime Minister to Ed Miliband?
Absolutely, 100% categorically, no, I did not. I have made that clear, but I think perhaps more importantly, the other party to the conversation, the French ambassador, has also said I didn't say that. So we've got two people having a conversation, both of whom say that comment was not made. Now, it strikes me that should be an end to that part of this story. I think the bigger questions now in this story are how a memo containing this inaccuracy came to be written by a UK government civil service who wasn't even at the meeting. The Foreign Office appear now to be denying all knowledge of this memo. So who wrote it? How did it come to contain this inaccuracy? And perhaps most importantly of all, how did it then fall into the hands of the Daily Telegraph? So these are now the questions that I think demand answers, and I've written to Sir Jeremy Haywood demanding an inquiry so that we get the answers to those questions.
That's the civil service. You're writing to the civil service to demand answers to that question. Well, we've been told by the French Consul General, who is quoted in this memo, or at least not directly quoted, but whose conversation is referenced in this memo. It is said to be him that reported to the British civil servant these comments. He says that he did not say that, and he says you did not say that, but he says that the conversation he had was with the Scotland Office rather than the Foreign Office. What are you actually accusing people of here?
Can I just start by saying I'm simply asking questions. It appears to be others that are accusing me of something I didn't do. And I want answers to the question. If it's the case, as it is, that I'm saying these comments weren't made, the French ambassador, who I was talking to, says these comments weren't made, the French Consul General, who is reported to have said I said these things, said he didn't say that, then the question of whether or not I said this should actually be put to one side. That's been comprehensively dealt with. The question now is who did write this memo. I've just seen reports saying the Foreign Office say that they have no record of this memo. So who wrote it? Was it the Scotland Office? How did it come to contain this inaccuracy, and how did it find its way into the hands of the Tory supporting Daily Telegraph? Now, these are now the questions at the heart of this story, and I think we deserve answers to those questions.
I have spoken to senior people in your party who have told me that they recognise from a strategic perspective, putting aside this specific allegation, that from a strategic perspective there is, in the words of one senior person within your party, there is an attraction in the idea of a Conservative government in terms of your campaign for independence, because you can continue to attack them. Well, I am telling you that someone within your party, I can't because it was a private conversation. It was a private conversation, but I have spoken to more than one person within your party who has said, not that they favour it, but they recognise the attraction in strategic terms. You must understand that logic. I mean, you've spent 5 years saying that Scotland should be independent because of the Tories. Is there not a certain attraction for you in continuing to campaign on that basis after the election?
OK, just for the record, let me make clear that you're asking me to comment on comments where you won't tell me who said these comments, but I'm expected to somehow, believe that those comments have been made. There is no attraction to me whatsoever of a Tory government. I joined the SNP at 16 years of age because of my disgust at the Thatcher-led Tory government. I've spent my entire political career campaigning against Tory governments, and I've said in this election that if there are more anti-Tory MPs in the House of Commons than Tory MPs, then SNP MPs will vote to stop a Tory government even getting off the ground. I've challenged Ed Miliband to say that he will vote with us to block a Tory government and to lock David Cameron out of Downing Street. Thus far, he's failed to give that commitment, so I issue that challenge to him again today. If the SNP and Labour combined have more MPs than the Tories, will Labour vote with the SNP to lock David Cameron out of Downing Street? I'm giving that commitment. Why won't Ed Miliband?
I gather you need to go on stage. I'm being told you need to go on stage. But just finally, are you suggesting that there is a conspiracy by the British state here to smear you?
Look, I'm asking questions. You know, we have a story on the front page of a couple of Tory supporting newspapers this morning saying that I said something in a conversation. I've said I didn't see it. The person I was talking to has said I didn't see it. So, you know, that shouldn't even be an issue anymore. I'm simply asking the question, how did this memo that was supposedly written by somebody within the UK civil service, how did it come to be written with this inaccuracy and find its way into the hands of the Daily Telegraph? Strikes me the questions should no longer be getting posed to me around this story. The questions should be getting posed to the UK government. That's why I'm writing to Sir Jeremy Haywood asking for an inquiry. You know, I took part in the leaders' debate on Thursday night, and I made very clear in that debate that this election is an opportunity to change the Westminster system because it's out of touch, it's remote, and it doesn't serve the needs of people across Scotland and the rest of the UK. I made the case that the election is an opportunity for ordinary people across the UK to make the Westminster system better reflect their priorities. Perhaps this morning is a sign that the Westminster establishment doesn't like that message and they're beginning to panic about that message. That's why I'm even more determined to keep taking that message to the streets and the communities of Scotland over the remainder of this campaign.
Thank you. I think they may be about to introduce you. Thank you very much indeed. The First Minister and leader of the Scottish National Party, Nicola Sturgeon. Well, as denials go, that is pretty categoric in its content. We've also, as in fairness Ms Sturgeon says, we also have a denial along the same lines from the French ambassador, and indeed we have spoken this morning to the French Consul General, who says that he did not say this to anyone within the UK government. And as I say, he says that he was reporting back to the Scotland office, the branch of the British government based in Edinburgh and in London, looking after Scottish affairs. So that's where we stand. This memo does exist. It is written by a civil servant, but the parties to the conversation deny it happened. Still, it's a big row.
James Cook in Glasgow, thanks very much for that and for getting Nicola Sturgeon for us live here on BBC News.